This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in his student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Show X on VTWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on the 21st of October, 2018. Welcome, everybody, to the show, and welcome, Ken. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm good, and I'm here with a real microphone.
Woohoo! Listen to you.
Like 8 shows, jeez.
So nice to be off of, what were you on before, the, webcam mic?
That webcam right there. I've also now got a nice little what do they call it? Like a gooseneck like holder for the camera, so it can now properly move around and stuff.
Nice.
So it's quite fancy. I've got a nice little setup. Oh, I forgot to turn on the light. Wait, give me one moment.
These have more to go.
I also got the old setup back together with the lights. So now I'm in full brightness, although it's a little much, actually. It's a little excessive now, even though it's the same light that used to be.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I wonder if it's just the angle you're at or such that the camera needs to,
I think it's because I modified the settings to make up for the poor lighting, so it's probably like bumped up the brightness itself. So I need to bump the brightness down. I'll fiddle. How are you, sir?
Oh, I am doing all right. Getting things together, sorted for the show today as we are, and trying to just get everything going. Let's see. As we start off and looking into the stream right away, as Hando jumped in there saying on stream, and what? Tromad talked about me needing a new van. Copy said, huzzah! And coming with, ooh, smooth intro. And Tromad going right in there for you, Ken, saying, oh, smexy Mike. So yes, look at us getting things started right now, and the joke in there saying that oh look, Ken sunburned, but we're gonna go ahead and kick things off with a little bit of
dysfunctional deviations.
And so starting off this week's dysfunctional deviations, Ken, what are you up to? What you been doing? How things going?
Well, first of all, big shout out to my littlest sister-in-law.
Oh yes, birthdays.
Yeah, so happy birthday. It's 15 years old.
So it's entertaining because I saw photos in the first wish for her from your sister-in-law's page, and I was surprised by how tall she's gotten.
Dude, she's probably taller than you now. Yeah. She's
Yikes! Wow. Oh my.
Yeah,
so yes.
She's getting to a height that thankfully isn't like threatening my height quite yet. And I think she's probably done growing now.
You hope.
We'll see.
I'd say you do have some fairly tall ladies in your family.
And small ones. It's a nice mix.
Well, so it's interesting, right? Especially coming off of Kitten Features family. It's just like I was a bit surprised. But when I saw the picture, I was trying to think back like, wait, is Az really that tall or small? Or
Well, it's because Aslan is really small. And Kitten is also really small.
Yes.
But they have a different mother to the two other sisters. They all have the same father.
Gotcha.
And the mother is quite tall. Than you.
Yes, it is. Yes. It brings back that Scottish flair.
Yes. So they're all lovely family, and it's nice that she's now 15 years old, and she's been growing in both in physical height and stuff, but also her personality. She's become so much more confident over the years and everything, and she's also really funny. Like she makes me laugh every time I talk to her.
Nice.
I'm very proud of her, and I've never really had that feeling because I've never really had younger family members that I knew more than like once every 5 years. I see them at Christmas or something. So it's really nice to. Yeah, it's nice to see her grow, and I am proud of her for how she's doing and her progression through life so far.
Yeah, no, it's very good, and happy level up day to her. But yeah, it's because it's been since I was out there for the Christmas/New Year's that I had last seen, and wow, definitely have sprouted.
Yeah. Also, so I'm not going to go into the details, but we've had some family issues.
Oh no!
In terms of health with certain grandparents.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, but they're nothing crazy bad. It's just somebody's now been put in the hospital. Probably going to be fine. Like 99.99%, everything's good. Being kept in for observation more than anything, and more test results coming back by Monday. But it was quite an unfortunate timing because said family were planning on going to a trip to the Antarctic yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, it was going to be a once in a lifetime kind of. They've been planning for it for years. And sadly they couldn't do any more due to this health stuff. So they missed the flight.
So hard. Sorry to hear that, but yeah.
Yeah, it was really sad. It was really sad. But it is what it is, and we went to go visit them yesterday. So we had a 2.5-hour drive up there, 2.5-hour drive back. And we promised to be back next week as well if they're still in hospital, so we can be there for them, etc. And so yeah, that was a bit of a downside. But one of the bright side of this is that the rest of the family is actually coming to visit. So all the European family are on their way right now. Actually, they're driving over to England from France.
Oh wow!
To come visit. So where we'll see them on, I think, Friday, Saturday, which
Awesome.
will be nice.
Well, and
it'll be good.
As we talk about this, actually another shout out we have to do is we have to do a very happy birthday wish to our good friend Octail, because it is actually his birthday today. And so anyone who has an opportunity to find him on social media or something, make sure you throw out a little bit of wishes his way as well. So happy birthday to you, Mr. Octail.
Send him a tweet. I gave him a little birthday message. I'll see if I can find it because I was quite proud of it. I don't know how happy he'll be with me saying his name on air, but sorry, his age on air. But I'm going to do it anyway.
Hey, he's younger than I.
Yeah, but it's less to do with the age and any ageism. I mean, it's more just the fact that it's private information, I guess. And I don't know. So we will just get weird about that. So I said on his Facebook wall, the number 42 is, in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. Calculated by the enormous supercomputer named Deep Thought over a period of 7.5 million years. Unfortunately, no one knows what the question is. Today, we found out. Happy birthday, Todd.
Yay! That is good. I like that. So definitely.
I tried to give unique birthday messages, and that's just so difficult. And thankfully, he had quite a unique number, so
that helps.
That made it a bit easier. So as for my week, honestly, I've not had anything particularly interesting otherwise happen. Next week I've got some teaching off, which is nice. I've got a bit more free time to work on other stuff, which is good. Honestly, I've had a rather dull week, to be honest. Nothing particularly interesting, which I guess is a good thing in some ways. So I think I'm going to actually hand over this early on. So how are you, sir? What have you been up to?
Well, let's see. What have I been up to? Trying to be a bit healthier. I've been suffering for some time now with back pain and shoulder pain and such, and so I went to the chiropractor this week to try to get sorted. Don't know if it has helped, hurt, or otherwise yet, but it's hopefully doing something well. With that, I then, talked to him and said, hey, you could see where some of my issues were and scheduled another appointment to hopefully follow up on it and see if that'll continue. It's weird because I'm feeling a shifting in where I feel parts of my body, and not in a good way, but hopefully that's for the mend.
Shifting. That's
well, so from where it was mostly focused in my discomfort, kind of my back shoulder blade, right now I'm feeling stuff kind of filtering through almost to the front a little bit. So I'm hoping it's more part of the healing process than anything else, but we'll see. I'll go in again Friday, and I'm actually going to maybe do 2 steps of my trifecta of self-healing type of going out and getting people to work on me, which is I've been looking at doing chiropractic work first, followed by an appointment with a masseuse, and then in the ultimate one, potentially a acupuncturist or something like that at the end.
Oh, that one, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think there's much in the way of science behind that one. The other ones, there's some.
Yeah, no, and so it's not necessarily truly science so much as allowing, with the acupuncture, I know a lot of people who swear by it, but an opportunity, my theory behind it, chiropractic to really put your bones back in alignment. Massage to then relax your muscles so they don't work as hard against your what your chiropractic appointment did, to kind of relax everything and let it settle. And then acupuncture just to kind of do that last bit of just releasing any, be it, nerves, if it does do toxins, things like that, whatever it is, to kind of just do a final let everything relax so that it's got the highest chance of all three things being effective. But like I said, I don't know if I'll do the full trifecta so much as I'll likely just do maybe add a massage after my next appointment, just because I think that might help with the chiropractic kind of hold. And I asked the chiropractor about it, and he tended, because I asked, it was like, is this just a silly thought of mine, or is there any validity to it? And he actually said he thought it was a decent plan. And so, we'll see. But there's a thought there. So did that, and then also asked, well, I was like, anything, because he had asked me what I do and what might have helped cause this. And I explained that I don't know exactly what did it, like a singular event that jacked me up so much, but it's happened for a while. And actually, I could have said probably this goes way back to when I was in Japan and had wore a backpack for the whole month and kind of jacked my back. I think it's still coming off of that from, far back. But
Jeez.
Yeah, no.
Some serious damage then.
It's been reoccurring for a long time. And then I said, but at the same time, I've also been doing a lot of martial arts and running around like that, and I get thrown and twisted and thrown on the ground and stuff like that, so that probably doesn't help. But anyhow, and so afterwards, he was nice enough. He was saying, well, I don't want you to stop doing what you're doing, so keep doing all that. Just be aware of anything that changes. So, okay, cool. So then I went the next morning and went for a 3-mile hike up in the mountains, or kind of the foothills.
Oh, God, okay.
But went down and back up into the foothills. Nothing too terrible, but definitely a bit of a hike. Took my camera with me. In fact, I need to get off my butt and do some more photo edits. I've got so many photos to edit. But went for a bit of a hike, and that was nice. And, after the chiropractic, I don't know if it felt great or not, but hopefully it's all, I don't know. We'll see. I may be doing all this just to, put myself back in a bad way. But afterwards, spent some time up in Boulder. Got to do, went back to Redstone to the meadery, which I love there. They had some new blends, and so did a tasting and got a few bottles of mead. Came back,
nice.
And then a member of my team at work was hosting an event to have people come and do some pumpkin carving. And so went over to her house and carved a pumpkin, and I should really find the photo I had of it, because I didn't use a stencil like a lot of people there did, and there were some really well done pumpkins. But I took a picture I saw of someone else's pumpkin on Pinterest or something, and I just kind of took a marker and mimicked that drawing. Apparently did fairly well, because I came up with a pumpkin that was supposed to be essentially the big grin and face of the Cheshire Cat. And everyone else there thought it came out pretty well, so happy with that. I need to do some more carving to it, though, because as the teeth got smaller on the side of the smile, it doesn't blend through as much, so I need to shave some of the back off so the light comes through well. But pretty happy with that. I've got another pumpkin that I need to carve that I kept on hand. I wasn't sure if I was going to have more than one to do or how much time we had, so have another pumpkin I need to get to at some point this week. As it is basically, not officially, but the week of Halloween. I say this because most people who are celebrating anything with it are likely going to be having parties this weekend, versus the one because Halloween falls in the middle of the week, and most people will have their parties either right before or right after. I think I have one party I'm aware of right after. So I'm hosting one this upcoming Saturday, and I need to transition and get things set up for Halloween. And so normally I would be all decorated out and ready to go like this entire month, but I've been busy enough and running around that I haven't. And so just over this, I finally got all my bins of props and costumes and things like that out from storage, and I've set them up upstairs to be gone through. And so hopefully starting today, I will try to get my house as spoopy as I can for the party, because I have a goal this time. Now, I'm not theming it as anything in particular, but I want everything to just be creepy in a proper Halloween way. So I need to get that all together so I could actually feel like I'm in the mood. But the carving of the pumpkin, I think, helped put me into that track of like, haha, this is the Halloween time. And so I'm starting to feel more in the mood, but now I need to actually get everything else that way. So working on that.
Pumpkin was very impressive, by the way, as you can probably tell by the plethora of likes that you got on Facebook.
I did get a lot of likes on it. And I don't know. It was one of those things where I was just kind of like, I'll throw it out there, but apparently people thought it was good, so appreciate that. Actually, I could probably find it here real quick and throw it on the feed. Oops, wrong button. And that way I will share it with all of you, because like I said, it's nothing crazy, just a Cheshire Cat pumpkin face. Yeah, there it is. Just open it up real quick and do the whole share my screen. Where are you? All right. And so for people watching along, you can see it's not totally cleaned up there. That was like shortly after when we just put light inside to see how it looks. I need to actually wipe it down and try to clean off the markers, spots that I'd use as a reference. But basically my Cheshire Cat that I did, and other people showing me thoughts they had for a good pumpkin. But anyhow, so yeah. Throw that in there. I thought it came out nicely, but it was a fun activity. And actually, I really wanted to do more Halloween themed get all together kind of activities leading up. It's just been so busy. But one of the things that I saw is at one of the craft stores, they had a bunch of little like Halloween themed boxes and things like that. Just all these little different things. I really wanted to go and get a bunch of them and have people over and try to decorate and set them up, but it's just no time. So many things to do. So unfortunately have not been able to be as Halloween-y as I would have liked. But getting there. What else have I done? So also took a moment and my cousin and I went and saw a movie. We went and checked out the new Venom movie that's in theaters right now. Have you seen that one yet, Ken?
No, but I've been really wanting to see it.
So it's one that it's interesting because Venom is, it's still part of the IP that's owned by what, Sony, I think, that has the Spider-Man series.
Yeah, there's a weird
Sony or Fox, right?
With Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, but because they've actually been working with Marvel under Disney on Spider-Man, I was wondering what kind of connection Venom might have. And the way they did the story, it's interesting. Purist might be a little unhappy, but I think they capture it well enough in that they separated Venom out from Spider-Man, or they didn't at least go into Spider-Man in any way with him. And we're kind of going directly towards the Venom that is a hero anti-hero.
Okay.
In the sense that he's not, not a full-on villain, but at the same time not a prissy nice Spider-Man type character. Also, it's interesting because they separated and didn't actually talk about Spider-Man in any way. They did do some throwback things or kind of call-outs to where it comes from, talking that Eddie Brock had come from New York area or something, had come from the Bugle and was now out in California and San Francisco doing other things. And so there's at least some history there that does tail back to the real origin of Venom. As well as how they get into the symbiote and everything is close enough or interesting enough for the way they do the story. Although there's some details in there that, again, as a purist, I'm not sure are accurate to the comics or maybe are stories that I just never got into and heard. But all that aside, I thought the story they told was really solid. I enjoyed the action and I enjoyed the interaction between Eddie Brock and the symbiote. Venom, and I thought that played off very well, and the overall story that they told throughout it was tight enough to be enjoyable. And so I actually really liked it. I think my biggest criticism of the movie is that, and it's hard not to do this because Venom is such a large and kind of over-the-top character that it's pretty much all CG, right? It's all computer graphics. Which is fine, except that, to me, it not quite the Transformers effect, Michael Bay type thing or something where it's too much CG, but I thought I just wasn't completely sold on the look of Venom, and primarily his face when they did everything. Okay. So that part was a little bit of a struggle for me. It wasn't terrible, and I don't know what it was I would have done differently, but for whatever reason, what I saw of Venom was just a little hard for me to watch. I was like, this is not the Venom I know. Grr. So close, but yeah. Oh, look at that. Grats to Mizarok for achievements. And Onyxia's Lair. More dots.
Yeah, Copster just killed Onyxia.
Nice.
More dots now. More dots now.
All the things that I can't do because I'm having to concentrate on the show while you guys are gaming and I'm just sitting in an inn. Well, that's all right.
You could easily do that. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, you say that. I'm still too newish to the whole WoW game to be able to multitask as well. I have to look at like show notes and things like this to make sure that it's going and monitor the show to make sure that I'm not roboting and doing terrible things. So all of that. But anyhow,
that's what the difference is that I need to. You care with the lore more in WoW, right? So you need to pay attention to it. Whereas I'm just sort of like, I've seen all before. I'll fly through this.
Well, and that's one of the things for me because it all is essentially new to me, and that's part of what I actually want to explore. Now, it's been a challenge too because, what was it? Blizzard offered a free weekend or free 3 days of exploring Battle of Azeroth, the expansion. and being able
Oh.
to create a tune directly in it just for a test. And I was like, oh, no, I don't know how we got here. I don't want to jump ahead. And so I've held back on trying to offer or take the offer and create the tune. And I think it's really because even though I'm sub, they want me to buy the expansion. Go figure.
Well, of course they do.
So yeah. But yeah, so the movie was really good. I do recommend it for anyone who's a comic fan. I think they did a great job with it as a standalone and was a lot of fun for me. So I enjoyed Venom quite a bit. But that's pretty much what I've been doing that hasn't been too geeky. Like I said, the whole prep for Halloween is kind of on my mind. So that's what's going on. Other than that, and it's on the mix between, I've been doing a lot of spending whatever free time I have trying to edit photos. I've had a few people call out saying, hey, where's this photo? Where's that photo? And I realize how far back my backlog is because I've been trying to keep things from building up further by working off what's latest and working my way back to make progress. And I just had actually congratulations to Shady and his wife because they're expecting another child. And we, over the weekend, also had a reveal party where they revealed that they're having another boy. And that was actually quite fun. Took photos, and they did it in a neat way for the reveal. One of their friends was the keeper of the gender, as they had shirts made and such, where she was the only one who knew what the baby was after their ultrasound, the doctor saying, and had helped them get together the kind of props and supplies so that everyone could find it at once. And what they came up with was little plastic footballs, kind of like eggs, essentially, or kind of like Easter eggs or something like that, but little footballs that they filled up with the color powder for the gender. And what they had is their current son and their father both had one of these footballs to basically punt at the same time. And so we went outside and they set it up, and we got photos of them both basically kicking the football at the same time, exploding with this blue powder all over. It was great though because their son kicked it just before he did, and in the direction he kicked it, it like exploded all towards and into his face, into Shady's face. And what was great about that was I got it in like my fastest shooting mode, which I think my camera does like 8 frames per second. And so just click, 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 and you could see the progression of the kick starting, the dust or powder starting to blow out. And the moment, my favorite piece is where it starts to hit Shady, and it just cakes the side of his face. And it's right before he's actually kicking his ball. And so there's a moment where he's almost blinded, and then you see his ball just sitting in middle of the air as he was dropping it. And then when he kicks it, he actually got a good kick, really high. And you see his ball going straight up, but it didn't explode. And so it was just entertainment. But so I had to get those photos done real quick, knock those out. Thankfully, that kind of event doesn't require a lot of editing, just correction for color and light. So that's quick and easy. Got those back to them, and then also had others like Hide My Hair and people kind of calling out and say, hey, remember that photo we did from this costume way back here? Like, yes. It's like, could I get a couple of these shots? Like, So I'm having to bounce around between albums and stuff trying to catch some of the different people and some of the costumes I need to edit. So fun times there. So much to get back on. While also, the other things I did, I guess, I helped La Campette finish her Halloween costume. Had her, and actually, I don't know. Do I hear you, Ken, or is it just?
No,
me?
I muted myself momentarily, but then you moved on to another topic, so I didn't want to interrupt again, so I went silent.
Oh, sorry, I saw you do that, but no. What did you have to say?
I was going to just completely interrupt your life and the way you do things by giving you a recommendation and saying you should really like give yourself like a good, I don't know, weekend or something, or photo editing. Give yourself some nice food, some nice drink, make it like a little event for yourself, and say no to all social things for like a whole weekend and just get it done. Get a bunch of it done anyway.
That like stresses me in many ways. I actually did kind of comment to people that I need to take probably 2 weeks off of anything else just to do the things. And so yeah, I've got so much I need to accomplish. Well, one of the things I'm hoping to do today, and oh gosh, if I say this, I have to make it true, right? Is move my computer back upstairs to my office. Okay. Although to do that, there's a few other things I have to do because my lamps in the room have broken. So all I have right now for light in there is the studio lights, which is great, but really harsh.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I know the
Yeah,
feeling.
right. This blinding light in your eyes. And so I do
Yeah.
want to do that as well. And another challenge is because my Logitech Surround is still broken, all I will have for speakers then is my headset, which down here I've been able to use this Surround, which is actually kind of nice. But I'm trying to get myself back up and put away so that I'm doing things in the office that are office related, not getting too distracted with other things. Plus, I can use the 4K monitor and stuff again up there. So I have an idea and a plan to do that, but at the same time, I got to prioritize doing like getting the house together, stuff like that. But yeah, I was telling somebody I need to like take a vacation for 2 weeks just to work on photos to try to get all caught up. But my problem is, and I don't know how much endurance you have for it, Ken, but there's times when I'm just done. Like, you know, I can work on photos pretty heavily for a few hours, and then I'm just like, oh God, I need to stop. I need to do anything else because I've been clicking this mouse for this long.
I'm the complete opposite. I don't have a queue because I can't stand having a queue. As soon as I do a photo shoot, I will within the next couple of days I will go and fix it, and I will not do any more photography until that's all sorted as well.
I need that discipline.
I don't have that problem. It's not discipline. It's just while you feel stressed about the queue, I feel stressed with the idea of having a queue.
Well,
like
I do
just
too.
can't have one.
But the problem I've had is it doesn't seem like I can do enough fast enough to keep ahead of it. That I take too many photos for one, and it's hard for me to cull them all fast enough. But I'm working on it, and I'm feeling worse because things like DragonCon are now far enough past that I feel like I should have all those photos out and edited and done. The problem is I did a couple actual like shoots there, not just the quick hallway stuff I normally do. So the shoots take a lot more time to edit because I'm not just going to throw those out. There's with friends of mine who I am going to take the job of doing some touch-up work to make their skin look proper. And when I see like
it's kind of like they're many careers almost. So it's really important to them. So you want to make sure,
Several of my photos have started ending up as prints and stuff that they're using to either sell or to advertise, put on cards and stuff like that. So I want them to look nice. In fact, when I was working on Ginny D's Joker cosplay pictures from DragonCon for her Critical Role stuff, I made sure like she had done this cool thing where she put a little ring around her finger or something, or a little clip that had a string on it to hold her tail up. So when she would hold her arm out, her tail would be up and out to the side as well. And so any photo I had of that, I edited out the string completely and the whole mechanism holding it.
Oh, nice.
And I did a pretty darn good job of that, so I don't think anyone noticed. So now the tail just looks like it's floating properly. And takes the string out. And so she's also a notable cosplayer that she got noted by the team that does Critical Role for her costume, and so it got seen and stuff like that. Now some of the other photos that she's taken, but things like that. So I'm aware of the audience, so I'm going to take some time on it, and so that kind of thing where I'm just like, so yeah, I've got a few things. And also, Hando, for your sake, for the mic sounds on me sounding good today compared to usual, it's because I figured out there was a setting going on my which also helped when I go in the office, but on my air conditioner in the back where it just kept the fan running 24/7. And so I've turned that off now, and it's like, oh, hey, it's so much quieter now down here. It's amazing. Little things like less background noise. Now it's just a 3D printer in the background, and that's not nearly as bad. So, yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah, I only hear the background music in between when you're speaking, really, and I don't hear any music. So, considering that, it must be.
Well, yeah, we don't have any background music. It's just us, just our soft, sultry voices.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's pretty much what I was doing. Oh, no, I think that's anything else on there. I'm trying to think of anything else other than picking up on photos and such. I dropped off some 3D prints I had with some friends as gifts, running around. So it's the usual thing. I've been very busy. It's just, I always seem to have more to do, right? And I still manage to do a few things in the middle and have some fun, but gee whiz. Anyhow. So that's
nothing wrong with keeping busy. I think it's very healthy. So
healthy until you do too much. But anyhow, so that's what's been non-geek this week, and so I think it's appropriate for us to try to switch things over and talk about a little things geek with.
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
So, Ken, you didn't have much on the way of non-geek. Did you find any time to geek out this week?
I did have some, actually. I really want to talk about what Ken and I did on Friday. We had a little date night of sorts.
Oh, cool.
And it was great. So for my birthday, I mentioned I got the World of Warcraft cookbook.
Yay!
There was a couple of things in there that really, really appealed to me, and I decided that, well, Ken and I looked at the book after work on Friday, and we said we wanted to do something that evening. Ideally, wanted to make one thing for food and make one thing that's a drink from the book, because it's got alcoholic beverages as well. So we had a look through, and we found Brewfest pretzels.
Oh, nice.
Now, I'm not too big on pretzels, but the thing that really sold me was that it was recommended to come with this cheddar beer dip. And that sounded really, really good. It was made with like mustard and a little bit of flour, lots of pepper, beer, of course, and lots of spices. So we as a team effort, we made these pretzels. Now, like I said, I'm not a big fan of pretzels, or at least I didn't think I was until I tried these. These made me realize that I actually really love pretzels, and I think they're one of the best things ever. I just need freshly baked good pretzels. Like once they were like 10 minutes out of the oven, honestly, they were just so perfectly warm and soft and delicious, and just like they looked crispy on the outside, but they're nice and soft on the inside. They were just so perfect, and that's nothing on the sauce. The sauce only took about 15-20 minutes to make, which in comparison to the bagels, which took quite a long while to make actually. The sauce was it was so much cheese. There was cheddar cheese, goat's cheese. There was beer in it, of course. Loads of spices and mustard, and it was just so good. Oh my god! So for the first time in our entire relationship, and we're coming for our 5th wedding anniversary next month. In January even. For the first time ever in our entire relationship, we actually gorged in front of each other. Like, no shame. Like, as you would if you were alone with a Domino's pizza and you hadn't eaten for a day. Like that kind of got like just shoveling as much as you can, as fast as you can into your mouth. We were absolutely doing that. It was, but we were doing it like right next to each other, and we were the way that we were sitting was opposite each other at this like small table, and so we were like, there's only one beer dip bowl. So we were grabbing a pretzel each, like pouring in, like we didn't want to drip, so we were like hovering our faces over this beer. So our faces were like right next to each other, like squished against each other while trying to eat. Like it must have looked so ridiculous, and we were like half laughing at each other while we were doing it because it was just so funny. But at the same time, we like couldn't stop because it was so tasty.
But I need this in my mouth.
Yeah, it was just an utter primal need. Like it was just so tasty. I can't explain it. So if anybody, I sadly can't give it the recipe since it is after all copyright, and I do respect that. If you're interested in this, check out the World of Warcraft cookbook.
Yes,
it's really good.
We linked it in our show last week. We'll link it again this week so that you're welcome to check it out for yourselves if that's something you'd like to play along, since many of us do love some Warcraft, the lore, the world, the game, all that. What more fun can you have than to actually bring it into your real life and maybe eat your gaming love as well?
It is just so delicious. So I actually have the image here. I'm not gonna share it again because it's got the recipe on it. But I will say a couple things about it. So yeah, it's called the Essential Brewfest Pretzels. Is the name of the dish, and I can't explain how good they are. We also had I think it was called Ogre Cherry Grog.
Ooh, that sounds lovely.
You basically get some spiced rum.
Okay.
You get some cherry juice.
Okay.
You get some ginger beer, and you get some limes and cherries. And
I am down with all of this.
Yep, you just mix them all together, and that's that. Nothing fancy. It takes less than a few minutes to make. You just need to buy the ingredients, is all. I think it was okay. I think it could have been better. I had one yesterday, and we had the main batch on Friday, but I had one yesterday as well. The main batch on Friday we used a sort of cheap rum with. But yesterday I used some fancy rum that we had stored to make like a single cup of it, and it was way better. So if you have a nice rum, it works. The other problem was there's only one type of cherry juice they actually sold in the supermarket here.
Oh,
and it's from concentrate, and it's very tart.
Gotcha.
So it didn't come out very nice. So I think if you have real nice ingredients and you do use the real fruit with it, like cherries and lime, I bet it'd be absolutely delicious. But it has this nice tangy taste and very Moorish as well. Especially when you have 10 pretzels to eat.
It helps wash pretzels down really well.
Oh, it was so good. Honestly, I can't explain enough. It was just so good. My mouth's watering at the thought of it. It's just ridiculous.
Nice.
I've not enjoyed cooking that much in a long time. So we're looking at the other stuff that we might make, and I'm still tempted by the honey bread. That's going to be the contender for the next slot. There's a lot of dishes there that are very a lot of the main meal dishes are quite meaty, so it's kind of difficult to make it for kitten. I mean, we can always do it by replacing the chicken with tofu or whatever else. But the issue is I don't like tofu, so
No?
we have to find a middle ground. It's quite difficult. I think what we'll have to do is make the base without the chicken, and then separate into two different dishes. One that will then have tofu added, one that will then have chicken added, and that would work. But I'll update you guys how that goes, because it's really, really awesome. It's really fun, really tasty. I can't really sell it enough. It's just awesome. So that's been the cooking and such. I have been playing a little bit of the game of choice, but we can't talk about it till the next section, I guess. So, or unless that's now, I don't know. I don't.
Well, we can bring it up now because I don't know if there's much else out of it. I mean, there's all times that we can bring up what we've been doing in WoW over the last week, especially for those out in the chat who want to join in or want to send us any messages they have on email to showx@vtwproduction.com to let us know what you've been doing in your geek this week. Specifically, in this section, we'll talk about with all things World of Warcraft. Actually, it's a good segue or beginning to it as you were talking about with WoW cooking.
Yeah, that's true, actually. And that was one other thing that it kind of brought the game to life a little bit. It was really nice to experience something in the game that it felt a bit more, not just a game. I felt like it was really nice to have something that was WoW related that was not involved sitting in front of a computer. It was kind of nice. Yeah, it's all that. One of the things that most people have been kind of playing with just now in WoW, I believe, is this time of the year is something that I've always hated and always struggled to do. Is the world events in the game, and I believe this week is Hallow's End, which
officially
is the equivalent of. Oh, I have a visitor. Hello. I'm going to close that door. Okay? If you give me one moment.
Yeah, no problem. And Hallow's End begins. Let's see. It began Thursday on the 18th and is going on. Let's see. When does it end? I think it ends the day after. So on the 1st of next month, and then they go into Day of the Dead begins, and that goes until that Saturday. So those are the events that are happening right now as we're going through. And it sucks because I know I just barely missed the end of Brewfest stuff and didn't quite accomplish everything I wanted to there, but I'm excited for doing the Halloween event and seeing the world all dressed out in spooky and Halloween themed things.
It's pretty impressive, actually, because every single town across the whole game, more or less every single one, honestly, it's very, very close to every single one, is decked out with pumpkins and stuff, and it's neat. They made a real effort across the expansions as well. There's also a whole bunch of achievements related to it. So the main achievement, I've just linked it in the chat there, in game chat, is Hallowed Be Thy Name. You have to complete all the other achievements related to the game for Halloween, and that's a good 8 hours work or something like that, because a lot of the achievements are things like go to every single pub across the entire game and click on the pumpkin.
What?
Now, it sounds dumb, right? But to be fair, you get a pack, I guess, which in the pack will have a bunch of random items related to the other achievements. So you need to do that to get the other achievements as well.
Okay.
You also get paid 10 gold once you're max level, anyway. 10 gold per pumpkin. So
nice.
I think there's something like, I don't know, like 150 pumpkins to get clicked on. So you make it 1,500 gold. So there's it takes a bit of time, but this also means if you're an achievement whore, which you must be if you're doing this, you'll probably also be interested in the, for example, exploration achievements, which would require you to go to all the different places anyway. So you can sort of double up your time there and make it a bit more efficient. There's also the Squirrels That I've Loved achievement, which is you find all the different critters and all across the game and type /love to them all. And
you gosh!
Get a stupid little achievement. Right, it's something that's just dumb.
When did you get that achievement?
I'm very close to it now.
Because I am sure Copy has had that. Just knowing the person, I would be surprised if not. So I am throwing that out. It says, Copy says I got that Shivo back in 2009 or whatever to do all the things.
Well, to be fair, there's more for different expansions now. I think there's to the squirrels I've loved and to all the creatures that I've loved. I don't know what they're called. But they're nice.
Well, and so where do you pick up a lot of these quests or these little things to do?
Oh, you look through the achievement tab to find out what you need to do. So you go into the achievement tab and you go to World Events, and then you go down to Hallow's End. There's all the stuff in there, everything there.
And it says like where to get everything and stuff like that.
No, it doesn't say all that. But to be honest, if you're in any city,
I mean that, but like where to pick up a lot of those quests. That kind of thing.
Well, not all of them are quests. Most of them are just sort of standalone things, right?
Okay.
They're achievements. But if you are wanting a place to start in general with all of this, if you go to any capital city, Darnassus, Darnassus, Stormwind, Exodar, Ironforge, wherever, and you or Horde stuff, you'll have the citizens there with little quests, and they're all Halloweeny and they're doing Halloweeny things. You just need to go up to them and say, "Hey, like, what's going on?" They'll give you a quest which points you to the front of Stormwind. You go there, and there's a bunch of daily quests that you can do to collect some of the items. And there's a couple of quests they're like single one-off quests. Like, for example, I think a couple of them are like you travel to the Undercity and you stink bomb all the civilians with it when you're on a broom flying around and you get paid for it. You do the same. You go clean up Stormwind from when the Horde players do the same thing to us. And a bunch of other stuff like that. So Hallow's End is it's another event in game that doesn't have really much reward in the sense of, well, put it this way: if you do all the achievements, and that'll take you a good bit of time, what you get out of it is a single title which says "The Hallowed." That's it, nothing else, right? That's the whole thing. And I get immediately about 1,500 gold for doing it in the first place, I guess.
Well, okay, but any reward that's a title, I think by itself is kind of interesting because it's one of those things that the people who know will understand when they see that title, like, oh snap, you did all the things.
Yeah. You also have a chance when you're doing there's also an instance related to this, a dungeon specific daily thing you can do, where you have a very low chance, I think it's like 5% or something, to get that mount that's enchant now, the Headless Horseman's mount.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's a pretty badass looking thing. It's kind of like an undead like mount, but it's more felly. So it's pretty cool looking. Also, doing this daily dungeon is also good because it's a very quick boss. You go in and it takes like 2.5 minutes.
Oh wow!
There's no trash or anything. You just go in, click the pumpkin, he appears, you kill him basically, and that's pretty much it. And then he drops a bunch of stuff, and you have a good chance of getting an epic ring and a couple other things, no matter what level you're at. So even if you're like level 25, you can still go in there and get a chance of getting a nice epic ring for your level. So it's worth what I would do if I was doing this would to cycle through each character and do that dungeon on every character so that you can have the higher chance of getting the ring and the higher chance of getting the mount and so on. There's also some pets involved as well. I think it's called the Sinister Squashling. You have a chance of getting.
Nice.
So you can check that out too. But it's well worth doing. And plus the dungeon, honestly, if you do nothing else, just do the dungeon on your main. That's the least you can do because it's well worth the time.
That'll be one I'll have to look out for. No, that'll be one I'll have to look out for because, like all the things, as I'm learning the lore, it's also trying to learn the things like what's important or cool about this event. About what's going on for the holidays this time. It's funny because, like, Copy said, essentially what you're explaining is you guys have done this. You are far past, and it's like, yep, know all the things, done all the things. What are you talking about? Where for me, it's, what? This is all new. What do I do?
Oh, well. It's new for me as well because I've always avoided events, so I've only started learning about them. Yeah, I just never liked them. I thought they were very. For me, I'm. It's like when I play The Sims. When I play The Sims, I make my guy get a career, and then I get to the top of the career, and then I'm done playing. I don't understand the point in doing anything else in the game, like designing the house or whatever. Was boring. Let them live in a cube that has everything that's required in it within an efficient walking distance.
Okay, that's funny.
Like that's just the way I see the game, and it's kind of the same with this. And I've always struggled because I've always thought, like, what's the point in the game other than like getting as many max levels as possible, and gearing up at the end of the game. Like that's pretty much it. But I've recently realized that I would as achievements that I would probably actually enjoy more because that gives you nice little bit of everything. You know, you have to do some PvP, you have to do some PvE, you have to do some silly stuff, you have to explore. I kind of like all that. You have to try, you have to grind a little bit as well. I think if you follow the achievement line of thought, you can experience more of the game and get a nice rounded view of it. And that's what I would do in WoW.
Okay, I can see that. No, that's something where I'm still. No, that's cool. Because I did the original thing where when I played through 59 back in original, and I was kind of like, well, once I hit 60, I've beat the game, right? And so I never did. Well, and yeah, go back to vanilla, right? This is, when I wasn't willing to go sit around to do 40-man raids and such like that. And so for me, finishing the game was just hitting max level and basically having explored all of the main overland world. And because I'd love to do all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of avoided 60 for the longest time just because I felt like I'd be done. And then I actually sold that or gave away that character before I even hit that. And it's funny because when I gave it to my friend, one of my VTW guys here, or Game Fest friends, I think he hit 60 that day when I gave it to him. He was like, "What are you doing?" And
yeah, why were you waiting?
So yeah, but with that, and I'm trying to remember when achievements came into the game as a whole.
I think it was Wrath. I think it was Wrath that came in.
As I say, because in that sense, I probably didn't have something like achievements to do back then, and so I was pretty much just done with things. I was like, nope, I'm good.
Well, back then it was kind of like it was just unspoken. Like you could still get like some fancy mounts and stuff, but it wasn't stated anywhere that was something you need to do. It was just something that was people knew
that
about.
You could do, yeah.
Which is kind of nice, but it's nice as well that we have it in a distinct list now, so you can find all the stuff you're interested in. So Hando was saying, for example, I think it was last week, the thing he wants to really focus on is doing these kind of achievements, like those ones there.
Okay.
Like Glory of the Ice Crown Raider and stuff. Some of the old achievements, where basically means that you've done a bunch of bosses in the previous expansions. You can do it max level, so it's nice and easy now. But the point is, you need to do like certain criteria, like you must kill them within a time limit, or you must, I don't know, click on something a bunch of times, or let something spawn, or whatever. Meet certain criteria, and then you get an achievement for that.
Okay.
And once you do that for the whole raid, and you do the whole like plethora of achievements throughout the whole raid, all the fancy achievements, you get something like a mount, like a cool mount as well. Because at the time that was a case of, you didn't only complete the raid, you completed the raid and you made it in like hard mode. So that was what it was all about. So if you unlock each of these, you get a bunch of cool, like let me read some of them, like a red proto drake, or a blood-bathed frost-brooded vanquisher, or the reigns of the volcanic stone drake, reigns of the twilight harbinger. Like these are all pretty cool things, right? And I agree. I don't have any of them. Like the stuff that I've always missed out on. So I'd love to go back and do all that old content to collect all these cool mounts. That's neat, That's one of the things you can really shows you've done something that's kind of cool. You spend a bit of time and you get this cool mount. Unlike again the Halloween event where you spend all this time. Yeah, you get some gold, and you get a title. For all that time, a title. I just find like it's something you don't even see in the game. But you have to change an option to see your own name if you want to. Like by default, you don't even see it. It's nuts.
I mean, at least it's something. It's nice that others can see and recognize what you've done. I can understand what you're saying about it being, what's the big deal? It's just a title. But at least that's something to go with. I mean, it was just like I still remember when my friend Tasty Meats was his whole point. Is on at the time, I think every one of his tunes, he got the cooking achievement, whatever it was to get the chef's hat. Yes. Because you had to max cooking and something else with that. Because it wasn't just that you had to max cooking, you had to do all the recipes or something ridiculous.
Well, if it's anything like fishing, like that one's a pain because there's so many like percentage random number generator based stuff you need to do, like get this rare fish, like Old Crafty and Orgabar, and that they've actually removed that from the salty achievement, like the main fishing achievement, because they thought it was too hard.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So it's however you play the game. That's kind of the good thing about games like it is open ended, and like the way I play the game will be entirely different to the way somebody else plays the game.
Yeah, I know that the way I play is pretty much different than everyone. But
Well, I'm interested in the lore as well. Just that I find a lot of Warcraft to be simplified or oh, that's just because it's part of to make the game work, and I can't like the rule of cool, and that always annoys me, like, oh, there's this really interesting stuff going on. We're gonna retcon that because it's tough to explain. We really want to go with a simplified version.
yeah.
Or here's a really cool character who we're gonna bring back from the dead because he was cool. It's like, okay, but he's dead. Why? How?
It is funny how often it seems like certain characters seem to keep popping up over and over. Although I was commenting in the game where, because I'm in Ashenvale, just doing questing and such, that I came across doing the demon quests, the monument to Grom Hellscream.
Oh, nice! Yeah,
the actual like big monument that's sitting in there thing. That was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool, because knowing not all the lore but enough of the story to understand kind of what Grom did.
Well, Grom was a badass. He was awesome.
Well, but he also basically like sold the horde away in a way.
Yeah, but he absolved himself in a cool way.
Well, but that's the thing, right? It's to the initially he was part of the downfall, but then he actually was part of the redeeming it and everything. So it's just one of the cooler stories I think that's out there. And so that one I think is really neat. And just because I know the character to a point, to run into that in the world, kind of just on its own, I thought was pretty slick.
That's pretty neat. Just to refer back to what you just said, about a character like having that sort of turning point, who's going down a bad path and becomes good. It reminded me of a quote from Skyrim, which I thought of actually because Kitten's currently downstairs playing Skyrim.
Nice.
And this is from Parthenax from Skyrim, who said, "What is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?" And I think that's a gaming quote. There's like I must have quoted that more often than I have any other like real world quote. I think
that's pretty cool.
And it's actually okay. I'm not gonna go down that. I almost had a your opinion is wrong thing there. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it, guys. I'm holding back. So that's everything I wanted to really bring up. Do you have anything on WoW you'd like to talk about?
I think we kind of talked through most of it, just because I haven't had as much time as I would have liked to play it over this time. I've gotten to get little bits in there, but haven't been able to focus on it compared to all the other things I've had to do. So I can't, I don't think I have any cool, just my stories of things I was up to. I've been, questing what little bits I can. I'm still trying to do the whole just leveling. I dinged, am I 36 now, I think? As I've slowly been leveling up. I say slowly. Normally, I would have been like, oh, look how awesome and fast that is. But realizing that in the grand scheme of how fast WoW is as a whole today, that I'm actually probably pretty slow. And so, yeah, I'm level 30.
I'm also probably putting in more time than you have been, so I wouldn't feel bad about that.
And I know this, so I mean, there's definitely that to be said, because at the same time, I've been playing other games outside of just WoW, because that'll always be something I do. As much as I enjoy kind of what the lore's been, and it's been an interesting experience coming back to this gameplay, where it's not twitchy. It's just kind of walk through, do the thing, click the button, the next piece, and so it's not rinse repeat, but I mean, it's definitely got a formula to how it's played. And it's been a while since I've done something like that. And in a way, I don't know the right word. It's somewhat nostalgic in a good way. Well, but I mean, just the way it feels playing it is that there's actually some good to that, in that it's kind of, oh yeah, I remember just kind of taking my time and going through things like this, and how that sometimes the somewhat easy nature of just the regular adventuring, it can be nice, because I know that when you get into some of the boss fights and bigger characters, that changes significantly, and it's no longer, I would not say it's easy. There's a lot of mechanics you have to deal with in some of those encounters, but normally when you're doing it just, your normal grinding and going questing, you sometimes run into some interesting mechanics, but I'd say for the most part, it's kind of the same thing, a little bit of rinse repeat. But
absolutely, yeah. But it's kind of comforting, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's interesting that normally I rail against this kind of experience, but I've actually kind of enjoyed it.
I think we both understand that casual games have their place, and Warcraft can both be casual and can kind of be hardcore depending on how you play it. It's kind of rare that it's a game that can like it's not like you can play Dark Souls on like I don't know like survival mode and then also play it on sandplay mode. Like you can't just switch that off, you know. Whereas in WoW, you can absolutely just play the pet battles if you want to. That's absolutely
That's
fine.
true.
No, nothing will stop you. You can actually get max level through it if you really want to.
That's crazy. Just imagining that people have done that.
Oh, people have. People absolutely have. And I can see why. It's actually quite tempting because that's an easy way to get achievements and level up a character that you're not really enjoying.
Just spend time doing those kind of things.
Yeah, why not, right? I mean, I've played characters in the past where I just haven't quested at all. Like I've not even gone to a zone with them. They just sit in a city and do dungeons. Like if I'm playing a character that's going to be entirely heals, why would I go do quests? It just seems redundant.
Well, it's interesting because
quickly...
I didn't think about it before, but I suppose now with the mechanics in the game and all the different ways you can play it, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can get to max level with just PvP, just questing, just maybe not profession. I don't think you do it to profession. You used to be able to, but I think the XP gains that you get have been nerfed massively to the point where it's nearly impossible.
Well, because didn't they also change a lot of the progressions piece where it used to be that you had to go to all your various trainers and make sure you leveled it appropriate and all this kind of thing. It seems like it's a lot easier now to just do the things.
Kind of. I mean, you still you don't have to go to class trainers anymore. But for professions, you still need to go to the trainers and you still need to unlock stuff. But they've made it now so that instead of one really, really, really long linear path for each profession, you now have a multitude of paths that are expansion dependent. So, for example, like if you're a tailor, you've got your classic tailoring, then you've got your Burning Crusade tailoring, then you've got your Northern tailoring, and that means that you can, you know, if you ignore your tailoring from 1 to 60, and then you're like, oh, I should probably start doing that. You can absolutely start doing it at level 60, and it's no problem at all.
See, that's the part that I remember. One of the challenges back in the day is if you had neglected, because I always remember doing like cloth and linen, and because everyone started where you could make your own health packs, right? Or the little,
your first aid,
your little bit of first aid type stuff that I think now is gone. And now it's all...
This expansion has been removed, which is still annoying to me.
Well, but they gave everybody a little heal thing, right? Of some sort. Well, because on Rogue now we have the ability.
Oh, that was before that though.
Crimson Vial. Oh, was it before? Because for me that was new. The fact that I can now heal myself. What is this?
Yeah, but I don't know. The cool thing with first aid was that you could also heal other people, and it was and plus, the way that it made you had to have the recently bandaged debuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
Or either, so it was kind of balanced. It was nice.
Okay.
Plus, there's certain bosses there that, like for example, if you go into the Arthas raid, there's a boss there that to pass you need to heal it to max health.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember you guys talked about that.
Yeah, and if you want to try and solo that at max level, like say I wanted to do that on my Demon Hunter or something, I just couldn't anymore. Whereas when I had first aid, I could go in with a totally overpowered 40 level higher bandage
and just hit it. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's fine. So it's kind of annoying for a couple of. Also, there's still some stuff they haven't removed from the game. I noticed. So, for example, in Pandaria, there's some first aid trainers that you can actually go up to and click on, and the little menu still pops up, and you can see all the different skills stuff that's there.
Oh no!
The train button is just unclickable though. It's like, well,
that would be a bit frustrating. Like, hey, I used to be able to do this.
Yeah,
that's funny.
But that's the World of Warcraft that we play.
Well, but again, there's good, there's bad about it. I think there's probably more generally good. It's interesting to kind of hear the, and this is for me catching me up on a lot of ways, the changes that have happened. Where it's like, oh yeah, I do remember that. I mean, we've had those kind of discussions a ton where there's that bit of nostalgia for all of it, where it's kind of, I remember that. Oh yeah, you used to have to do this, and this to do whatever. Things like that. That, people. It's kind of, back in my day when I had to play. I always say, like, when I had to get a mount, you had to have however much gold and be level 40.
Oh yeah, I remember that. back in my day as well. And to be fair, that was that was an artificial wall that just frustrated people. I think it was a great thing that they removed that.
Well, and so this is again where it's going to be very interesting to see what happens come Classic when that's finally available to play, and what all is truly going to be Classic versus what little things might they incorporate.
They've said before that they're going to have all the convenient stuff that they can in it. So I think maybe even transmog might still be in the game. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I think they'll have most of the features that are there now, but make it so that the XP gains are minimized since it's only 1 to 60. They'll probably buff all the mobs. And I think LFG is still going to be in it, so you can still look for groups. So you don't have to, try and actually organize it yourself.
Well, because one of the questions are going to be, are they still going to have it? Some of the raids, are they going to be 40 mans?
Maybe. I don't know about that one.
Because that could be interesting. I mean, now the nice thing is, again, doing with the looking for mechanic, you could actually do it and have 40 people show up. But man, the challenge of running with 40 people.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a big deal. I mean, apparently, like, Nax was always seen to be one of your raids. Like, people always complained at the time, but it's because nobody knew any mechanics back then. Back then it wasn't a common known thing to know what CC was, whereas now everybody knows it, right? It was just sort of embedded into us. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes as to how this is going to go.
No, absolutely.
I think we need to see what they're going to release first. And yeah, my concern is what I think is going to happen is a bunch of people will be like, "Oh, this is awesome! We're going to play Classic. It's going to be cool." They'll go in. Also, actually, sorry, one more side thing: graphics. Are they going to revert back to the original graphics? Like seriously, people would be so upset.
That would be a tough one, right? That would be tough because it'd be like, oh, that wasn't good. No, I could see where that would be really annoying. Oh, it'll be interesting. That's probably one of the bigger things I'm looking forward to, just to see how it's all done. To see if it matches what I remember. Because they're like all things nostalgia, you look back, it's like, oh, it was so good, and you forget a lot of the little annoying things. That
I envisage that they'll have a large income of people wanting to play at the start, and then it's going to drop off in like 2 weeks. People will be like, yeah, this sucks compared to the normal game.
Now, I'll tell you, if they bring back the Will of the Forsaken, I might be down. Actually, I would laugh my butt off if they did that, because that was always the thing that we logged out for, or whenever anybody canceled or put account on hold, we would all say is, we're doing this because of the Will of the Forsaken nerf. And just to be jerks.
I also remember when undead were actually seen as undead in the game.
Yeah,
and that meant that paladins,
that was rough.
Or priests, they could just use their insane, powerful stuff against it.
Yeah, well, was it actual controls or anything like that? Because I remember there were a few things they would do that just sucked, and so you had to be aware that when you were undead, anything going against them. Now, I remember that was a pain in the butt.
Absolutely. Anyway, sorry. So we're going to move on to Geek Cred, yes?
Well, I mean, we should probably take a break here. Of course, that means I should probably means I should probably queue up a song for it so that we're ready to go. Since I think I still have last week's music in there, and because is it just because we've been talking so much about WoW or not? I don't know, but I feel like I should throw in something WoW related.
Or it's because you're besotted.
Am I? Nah, actually no. We'll go to I'll do another remix look. I don't know if I have any WoW ones in there though. In the OC remix, I see a lot of other games. I don't know how much World of Warcraft's in there. So we'll grab something that is not at all, but is still dungeony. Throw this one in here. It'll be a little bit of Legend of Zelda instead. But because who doesn't like that? And with that, we will take a break, and we'll be back in about just under 4 minutes. And you're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com. We'll be back right after this. All right.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. You're listening to Show X on btwproductions.com.
And welcome back, everybody. So, good music. I like that stuff. And I'm jealous, Ken. You said you have cookies? Ken, are you muted?
Yes, I keep doing this because I'm an idiot. Yes, Ken very kindly made some sort of toffee chocolate cookies in the past hour. Before the show started, she said to me, "Do we have any snacks?" I was like, "Not really. You can always make some if you want." I said, half jokingly, and then she was like, "All right."
Nice.
I was like, not complaining.
Wonderful. That is something I miss. Random snacks showing up in my house.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, I don't ever buy snacks for myself. I'll buy booze. Like I buy booze, no problem for myself. But I'll never buy snacks. So that when this happens, I'll eat all of them. I can't stop myself. I'm voracious when somebody else brings them to me, for whatever reason.
I can understand. Well, I say that I purchased myself some snacks over the weekend that probably should not have, and they are disappearing rapidly. So
hey, the
good.
fact that they lasted over the weekend is quite impressive.
Well, to the point that even so I had gone to the meadery, like I had said, and then when I went to the event to make pumpkins, they had said, well, bring a drink if you'd like, such like that. So I was like, well, I now have this mead in front of me. I should bring this, and proceeded to essentially finish the entire bottle myself. Well, I had actually been open to sharing it, but the people were there were all drinking various beers and such, and so I was like, well, I've got mead. Most of them just like, what? And it wasn't until I had actually kind of forced a couple of them to taste it that they were just like, oh my, that's wonderful. Because the mead I had was a vanilla cinnamon mead.
Oh,
it was
see,
candy.
The only mead I have easy access to here is pretty mediocre.
Oh no!
So I really need to find where I can find good mead in Scotland. There must be somewhere.
I was gonna say you're not far off from where like the origin of it all is. I would be sorely disappointed if there wasn't something available.
I'll have to look around.
Cool, look, fine, adventure. So yeah. Anyhow, but with that, it is. Let's see. Unless I don't think I have any more. Did I? Oh. We were just talking the WoW piece, so had we got...
Yeah, we just sort of tangented around WoW in general.
Well, because I was going to say, for my rest of my geek, I guess I don't know if I had talked about any of my geek this week yet. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up that was outside of your WoW time?
I do, but you sound like you're ready to continue on. So
No, go ahead. Go ahead. We were going back and forth for the WoW, so by all means.
Okay. Let's see. So this week in terms of geek, obviously I did my WoW cooking stuff, which was very cool. One of the things I really want to talk about is I've still been listening to the Codex Alera series, Codex Alera by Jim Butcher.
Very nice.
It's still so good. Still thoroughly enjoying it. I'm on Captain's Fury now, which I think is book 4. Which I've been trying to keep Goodreads, my Goodreads account up to date. Problem is, it's not very good for when you reread books. You can only say that you've read it once. And that's
gotcha.
It. So it's kind of tough to do. If anyone wants to add me on Goodreads, I'll see if I can find. Yeah, there I am.
I'll say,
put it into
put it in the show notes
chat
as well, because that way I can link it out for anyone else who wants to jump into this, who's watching this later. Absolutely, because I need to probably get on that as well. I've been trying to find means to track all of kind of various things I've done, and so sites like that are perfect for what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's very useful for that. I also find that whenever I have friends who are like, "Can you recommend me this genre of books?" and I'm like, not off the top of my head, but I can look at this list of things I've read and I can discuss them there. Admittedly, I think there's 2 this year that I've marked down as having read this year that I didn't read this year, that I actually read
in the past.
Yeah, that I remembered. For example, it was here they are. It was The Catcher in the Rye and Lord of the Flies, right? Some classics that I read
Lord of the Flies,
years ago. But I totally forgot about. So I've now got that there. However, I have read 12 books this year.
Nice.
Most of which were well, in fact, they're all entirely Audible based. So every single thing I've been reading has been from Audible, which is a good thing because Audible is very, very, very good, and it's well worth it's well worth the money, and that's something that's kind of hard for me to say because I've always come from like the student lifestyle of if it's free, that's fine, regardless of anything else, because I'm a student. So it's in my mind, it's kind of ethical. However, I obtain it. I'm now at a stage where I have an income that's I can't really to myself. I can't say that that's fair anymore. So I try to pay for absolutely everything that I can. The only time I'll ever look at any other means is if it's literally unavailable to me. It only happened once in the past 2 years. I found there was a film that I was trying to find, and it just wasn't available. It wasn't available on Netflix. Wasn't available on Amazon Prime. And all I could do is buy the DVD, but I don't have a DVD player. So I was like, this is suddenly really difficult. Like, if I can only find the physical medium, what am I supposed to do?
That's actually one of the challenges that as we go forward in a digital world, people have actually, I would say, almost delighted in saying that they no longer have DVD players, things like that, like physical media drives. Where for me, I lament it because I still appreciate having all the old stuff. But in a sense like that, like having an old collection or something, or things that you can only find in one format because they have yet to be moved over to a modern digital distribution network, how do you get hold of them? What do you do? And that's interesting because if you don't have a player, then even if you did find it, what could you do? It's almost like Ghost or Vaporware, not Vaporware. Was it Ghostware? When Abandonware, when companies stop supporting games that they have and you can't legally acquire them.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's
and
like,
you get stuck in that sense of like, well, I can get it. But if I get it, it's not going to be through legal means because I have nowhere I can actually go to buy or watch this legally. Yep. And so you get into that kind of gray market area of what do you do? And so, yeah, that's
So that's the only time I've ever looked elsewhere for media. But I will always try to purchase it. I found that even if I'm really struggling, I found YouTube's actually not too bad because it tends to have purchase option for some movies out there. I mean, it's a bit more expensive because if you have to spend £3 to £5 usually for the HD version, that's a little excessive in my mind. When I can pay £10 a month for a Netflix 4K stream, why is it £5 for a single film in just HD? Right?
All the licensing because of every company now wanting to be part of its own. We make the money for letting people come to our environment versus others.
Yep.
So yes.
I mean, if YouTube Red supported all that for free, I might actually consider going into it. But I don't think YouTube Red does that, though, does it? I think it's just the no ads experience, etc.
They have a few things I thought were theirs, but I don't know if there's anything else they have streaming. And that's one of the challenges. It's one of the big problems we have right now in that there's so many things. Like, there are too many places to go get your media, essentially. And there's a few things out there that I think are trying to help that issue in that they are aggregates. They will take information from any of the various ones you use and allow you to kind of see them, visualize them, access them from one place, which helps. But the problem is you still have to maintain accounts on like all of those different things.
Yeah.
And so that's still kind of a challenge.
Yeah. I think it's going to... Well, if you think about it, I know my parents for years and years and years have always had, the local TV channel subscription. And they get their internet through that as well. So they'll spend something like £80-90 a month on, a fairly reasonably fast internet speed and access to all the TV channels. There's 800 channels, but they'll only watch maybe 4 of them. And when I query my dad on this, he's like, I'm like, why do you spend so much money on something where you barely use any of it? And he says, well, I like sports, and you can't really get that anywhere else. And I was like, you say that, but like, I'm pretty sure you can use like these ticket type formats that are like, I think Sky does something like that in the UK. You can have like you pay for a season pass, almost like a month's worth of a single channel or something, and that sounds like it'd be a lot cheaper. I don't know.
It's hard because a lot of those things a lot of sports especially, they really do kind of control the licensing, and only a handful of places might even be able to utilize it or get it, and so that's a harder one. So I can understand where for people, it's one of the things we still run into here. It's harder if you follow sports that aren't covered locally. Because if you're local, at least for the most part, you still have the option of over the air, which is arguably like the best thing you could do. Because although I keep hearing it might be changing, but for the most part, that it's uncompressed, and so it actually becomes a better stream than what you'll get from a lot of the cable or satellite companies, because they have to compress it in order to make things fit and provide the best service as a whole to their people. And so with that, being over the air is still probably one of the best things you can do if you can get it. The challenge, though, is that over air only tends to be local.
Yeah, that's true. But if you like sport but not that much, follow in my tracks of don't pay them for this, because they don't deserve the money when they try to do this kind of thing. One, especially in the UK with soccer. I don't know if you've seen the prices that we pay our soccer stars. Like, it's the highest in the world for sports.
Well, I was going to say, I think every professional sport has a ridiculous level of how much the stars get paid. For us, our American football athletes, the athletes that are doing, it's any of the stuff. It's ridiculous, like you said.
It's disgusting, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to get too socialist here. I wouldn't even consider myself socialist. But I just think that, when there's people who are trying to survive on, less than £10 a week, and you're walking away with tens of millions a year, how can you ever excuse that much money? How can you excuse it? There's just no ethical way of, unless you pretty much go for a survival of the fittest, I earned it, so it's mine, screw everybody else mindset, which you have to do, I think. There's no reasonable, even if you have that much money, but then you put it to a company and then do something good with that company, that I would almost understand. Like, that's a reasonable thing to do with that money, and you can live a richer lifestyle that way. But if you're just hoarding that money and spending on holidays or, I don't know, ridiculously expensive cars and stuff, like, what? How can that be acceptable in our society? Why do we support these people? Why do we pay for that?
Well,
my point is just,
we like to
pay for them.
We like to pay for entertainment more than need all day long, and it's something that is all of our first world, country style of living, is that we are much happier being entertained and kind of going like, yep, no, I can accept this because this guy brings in so much money because people are willing to pay for these tickets or the broadcast or stuff like that, well, they should deserve to get a piece of it, not just the corporations. Because the problem is, and there's truth to that, right? Part of the challenge, and I was having a fun discussion about this yesterday with a gentleman about, I don't know how you fix the system, because we encourage the system to exist so that people feel motivated to innovate and do things and make money and be successful. Yeah. But then you get this feeling of like, what's too much? Should people be allowed to just continuously make more and more money that in essence they'll never be able to spend? And, what do people need? And the problem is, need is not part of the equation when you talk about being able to just give people an opportunity to want to build something. If it was just by need, not that we're communists or anything, but it gets to a point where, well, I've already done enough to have everything I need. Why will I do anything more?
But that's not the case. That would never happen. I mean, look around. People are willing to go into poverty and eat less and skip school dinners in order to get an iPhone. People want more. Like,
you're right, but that's what I'm saying, though. If you get to
access to like the gelatinous goo that we all survive on that's super cheap, I don't think everybody would just accept that. I think everybody would be still striving for more, like status, social status, enjoyment, relaxation, productivity inside your house, etc. Like,
part of that, though, is because we allow for people to earn and keep more than they need. And because it is that level of encouragement or desire. Yeah, and so, but that's what I'm saying. Because of that, though, we also run into the challenge now where we will always have these significant differences between those who have and those who don't. And it sucks because there's not a good answer to How do
I think the only
you?
solution is to have some kind of hard cap on it. I mean, in the end, if somebody is getting X millions per year, you know, how much need do they really ever have for that? Like,
Oh,
personal freedoms can only go so far, you know,
I agree.
when
There
it's
may be
literally
no
taking away the
need.
possible freedoms of millions of people who are
Yeah,
in poverty.
but even then, once you get to a cap, then a person will stop doing things because they're like, "Well, I'm at the cap. Why would I do anything more?"
Because you can still be a legend and like, okay, let me be incredibly up for myself right now and use myself as an example. I have
Okay.
chosen a career. I've chosen a career path where I could quite easily go into a much more money if I wanted to. Right? I know it's available to me. I know I could get into it. I've been offered jobs in it already. I have chosen not to take that path because I would rather work in research and do something worthwhile and something I enjoy. So I've chosen to do something that's better for society, arguably, instead of doing something that's good for me, because I can do it and I chose to, and it'll bring me more satisfaction in my life because I'm the kind of person who would enjoy, you know, leaving something behind when I pass, rather than just accumulating as much money as I can before I die.
Okay. But with that's you personally. I have found that it seems like those who are doing quite well and continue to go above and beyond what most people are able to accomplish, they seem to not have a higher limit for what they want to accomplish when it comes to how much money they earn. And now some of that they may try to say benevolently or something that this is just the just reward for the work they do, and so it's not about the money, but at the same time, I think if you were to take away their ability to earn whatever they want and no demand or requirement for them to spend it in some other way or
Okay,
to have
well, how
that much
about,
of it redistributed, then I could see where they wouldn't have an incentive to continue.
but even if we look at countries that are communist and these kind of practices in place to the extreme, we still find people still striving to be good in their career and do well because the social status of it alone is something worthwhile. You can say, "Look at me! I am the top of my career. I'm one of the best TV presenters there are, and I make the same as the guy next door to me who is not very good, but." You know, I get the perks of having that job and that status. It means that you don't necessarily get the money, but you might get some other type of favors in your life that you enjoy.
Being
You get
famous
to
and having
enjoy
other
more time
things
off or
and
something. Right?
whatever. It's a hard thing because we notoriously do not pay for what we need. Instead, we most often seem to be quite comfortable paying just for what we want.
Yeah.
And so with that, it means entertainers are in a position where, because we will continue to pay large sum of monies to see whatever film they're in, or to, go to whatever sporting event, things like that, that they continue to just make more and more money. Because they have the opportunity to say, well, they're coming to see me. I won't participate in this unless you pay me this crazy amount of money. And so it kind of becomes its own issue. And my problem is I don't know if there's an answer. Unless, kind of like you're saying, in general, people choose to stop supporting the entertainment industry and demand lower prices and such, I don't think it's ever going to change. And that's true when it comes to movies, when it comes to sports, any of it. And Troman, like he said, doesn't believe that entertainers should be paid what they get. Because of the effects, right? They start feeling like royalty. People start building and joining into this modern caste system of the wealthy versus those who don't have. But I don't see people actually being willing to step up and do what it would take.
I think there are some people out there who are doing that kind of thing. So few and far between. And I think one of the things that I'm not going to say Russia did this correctly in any which way because it was an evil thing they did, but the pride in the state, the idea that you work hard not for yourself but for your country and for your people.
For Mother Russia.
Well, it's a beautiful sentiment if it wasn't filled with all the murders and the most heinous crimes in history. But if you take the actual that single point of merit of you're fighting for the us rather than the me, that itself is a beautiful thing. And I think if you have a societal status that says I have provided more for society than others, that's a worthwhile goal. That in itself is, even if you're not getting more money out of it, you can still say, yeah, but look, I am a local hero. I'm a community hero because I've helped people and I've done something they enjoy, or I've helped entertain them, or I've helped provide food or shelter or whatever, right?
And I agree.
My work has helped more.
And I agree that there are people who would likely find a lot of value in that. But I would also say, unfortunately, for the people who don't, who are just going to want money, because I think you're already stuck to this position where people who feel like they have enough are doing what they can to give back. But there's a lot of people who don't feel that need at all and are just going to maintain they want to have as much money as they can and keep growing on this global scale versus just personal scale. It goes back to even the thoughts I've had where it goes into what does it mean to be successful, and that I always am a big fan of local success, meaning I have all the money I could ever want to do the things that are around me, right? To take care of my friends and family, to travel whenever I want to live in a comfortable house, things like that, in a local scale, meaning that I may only need to make $200,000 a year, and I can live like a king in the town I'm from. I don't need, where it starts becoming an issue is when it's like, well, it's not enough because people in this other town need $500,000 a year to live the way I'm living, and that it becomes people start playing on the global scale versus on their local scale.
Just don't move to London, sir. Just don't move to London.
Right? It sucks, and I'm in a way almost sorry that we're going to the social commentary on it in a way, but I don't have an answer at all myself. I don't know what the answer is.
There is no this is the right way. It's just I'm just saying this is one thing that's outrageous with the system that is unfair, and I think is a well commented point, and a lot of people would agree with me on that. The people in sports in particular and entertainers are often paid way too much. I mean, at least if you're a CEO of a company, even if it's something like oil, you are providing. You're definitely in production. You're definitely providing something for the people. Like, I'm not saying this is an ethical way, but you are actually providing something, right? But a footballer who does 1 hour game every 5 weeks and then training in between but nothing else, and gets paid in the millions, that's insane compared to somebody who ensures that we all have our electricity and heating. Like.
Well, but again, it's the things that we do and don't value. It's so unfortunate but true that it's I don't know. I have no good answer for it, because I do agree that people who entertain and aren't really, you would argue maybe are just making the world a happier place, although it's not anything substantial, should not make the money they make. And that people who are educating, that are healing, that are providing food and things like that are necessities, you would think would be able to get paid more. But that's not the world we live in.
We should celebrate our emergency service workers. We should celebrate our farmers. We should celebrate people who work the tedious jobs to provide us with services and goods on a day-to-day basis. We should celebrate people who work in Walmart. We should celebrate people who make sure the traffic runs smoothly. We should celebrate these people. We should look down on people who provide next to nothing for society. I don't know, cigarette makers, for example. It's entirely and nothing comes out of that that's good. Nothing.
Well, yeah, right. Well, and it's funny because and actually this is a good discussion in the IRC. People are talking about, because go figure, we all work and we all feel like we should be appreciated for the stuff we do. It goes all the way up to, let's see, Kuro saying capitalism breeds innovation. I think there's some truth to that, but I also think we've butchered it and bastardized it, and that goes into all my discussions about patent law and copyright law, that innovation was, I think, a real thing when you had to constantly reinvent and do more with, and now that we made it so the companies can hold things for 75 years in some cases, and other things just for lifetimes almost, so they create one thing and are able to make people pay them for access to anything about it for the rest of their lives, is, I think, a bastardization of that system, and actually goes against innovation. So capitalism by itself is actually pretty dirty. The discussion...
It does work, though, right? I'm never going to say...
For the most part, it does work, yes. For the most part, it does work. It's just, it's a different thing than... I don't know. There's little, rules of life I threw out there for people just be aware of when you vote, when you look at what you support, and things that, never trust or give power to a company to believe that they are going to do something on the behest or for the good of people. That will never happen. Companies do things for profit. it may be on occasion that they find that in the long term they may make more profit by doing something that the public generally believes is good, because they may get better advertising from it, they may get better goodwill, and therefore people choose their brand over another. But all of that is still necessitated by their bottom line, by how much money they're going to make for themselves and their stockholders. That's one thing to just always be aware of when you look at who you support and what companies are doing. Don't ever think that a company is doing something for the greater good of humanity. I think the only person that is somewhat along that line is like the individuals out there, like the Elon Musks of the world, who company-wise, SolarCity and other things, and Tesla are actually kind of bad. The companies are.
Tesla's been shown to be assholes, right?
Yeah, the company is still not necessarily good, and Elon doesn't necessarily run all of that detail, but what he is trying to do as an individual with his money and the things he's investing in are generally for the good of humanity. It's just, unfortunately, he still has to make money, and therefore company doing things that are not good and such. So there's a lot to that. Also, there's what was in there. Tromad had a comment there about, what is it? Why is Bob getting paid $10 per hour to sweep when I'm getting $10 an hour to roof houses? There's...
Well, it should absolutely be an incentive. I'm not saying there should be everybody gets the same money. I just mean that's too pure communism, right?
So it's interesting because one of the discussions I was having with someone yesterday was, why do we have money, right? Why do we spend 40 hours a week in many cases working a job which is all basically a societally built construct in order to do things, earn money to then spend on goods and services? Why aren't we all just out exploring, enjoying, and being part of life? Why are we spending so much time doing, in many cases, jobs that don't directly enrich it, like humanity, right? My job can be arguably say protects my country and therefore the way of life I enjoy, but it's not necessarily enriching humanity. I don't know if that's too out there for what I'm trying to say with that, or if that makes sense.
No, I get that. I understand you. I think a lot of jobs out there. Let's take some examples. If you are working in a bank and or not even a bank, say you're working in finance and you look at shares that are being spent in certain companies and how to best place these shares and where to put money and where to remove it from, and keeping an eye on the stock market, that kind of thing. Like what you're actually doing is gambling, right? You're effectively gambling and trying to follow what society is what their preferences are and where things are going to move towards. And you have to know some political intrigue with these companies and such, and follow all that. But you're not actually providing anything. You're just making pure cash. You're making interest on money, right? It's a nothing. It's a nothing in, nothing out. Or it's the thing is, money is supposed to be analogous to produce, right? Like it's supposed to be. Once upon a time, we would have just traded items. We would have said,
"Yeah, it's barter for
salt."
It's basically
your skins.
Yeah,
right?
What it is money is a representation of how we value a person's time, and that time is relative. The value of their time is relative to the service or things they are creating or doing. And instead of us doing direct barter system like we used to do, where I would make a good and give it to you for some other good, like I will make this, I will make bread and I will trade it for you for eggs because you raise chickens or something. We now get to a point where we simplify it or put it into a pool, which we call money, and whatever resource we do it, that is related to whatever it is our time is worth based in what society is deemed. And we trade that money, a representation of our time, for other things, for what other people have done with their time. And that's
which is great, because it means that some people's time is worth more money or more you produce more, right? That's literally the analogy. You produce more than the other person. The problem is we're now at a stage where money is not being used for this, even though it should be. Instead, it's being used as you can literally skim off other people's produce by moving it around in specific ways, and then you get more back. It doesn't make any sense. There's no produce in or out.
It's no longer directly tied to something being built or created. Instead, we have allowed the system where we are speculating on and adjusting what we consider value to be. And so we're now changing money over for not something that is directly being created so much as the idea of something that might be created in the future. So yes, it means the wealthy are able to bet, do things to enjoy, and create additional wealth for people. I am hugely against the stock market. I am hugely against the idea of publicly trading companies and allowing people to invest in a company simply for a return, because I believe that takes away the soul of companies and so many other things. And now that you go to a point where retirements go away, stuff like that, and you have to instead invest in the stock market because it's what society has deemed as now the only answer for people to actually create long-term wealth outside of creating themselves, right? It's this whole system that we're now sucked into, and we don't really have any good way out. Trust me, I can get into the social commentary of this all day long. We're totally along the path of your opinion is wrong at this point. But at the same time, I think people are aware and kind of gravitating to what we're talking to. And it's interesting, right? Because Kuro says, I think people complain about making minimum wage. It's their job to get educated and find a better job.
Yep.
If they are lazy, screw them. They don't deserve more. I tend to have some level of similar agreement to that in a harsh way that I believe, and a lot of people argue against me, minimum wage jobs are there to be entry points into the workforce that are there for things that require minimal skill or time to teach to do. I worked minimum wage jobs, and people say, well, it's just as much effort you're putting out, perhaps, but it doesn't require as much responsibility in some cases, and there's not necessarily as much negative that comes out of you being poor at that job. Whereas if I do mine wrong, people die, stuff like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? If you do yours wrong, they make it sick. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
I have a probably horrible thing for me to bring up, actually, I guess, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Hey, we're down the path at this point. Share with your friends, everybody. Yep. Show X, where we talk about whatever we want, including things that may make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, including offensive stuff. I let's say used to have a friend who worked in an egg factory. Okay. This friend of mine, she always kind of struggled with nothing was ever diagnosed. However, I think it's fair to assume that she probably had some kind of learning difficulty and kind of struggled to, one, socialize, and two, do anything particularly complex. Right?
Okay.
So,
yeah, it was limited in whatever she'd be able to do. Catch you.
She passed some high school with difficulty.
Okay.
And is quite happy to work in a minimum wage job and lives with her parents, right? And that's fine. I think that's exactly what minimum wage jobs are for. And I've actually spoken to some career people about this before, and it's like psychology behind it, and it makes sense. The reason that you have a minimum wage job is that it's usually something, and there's a reason that robots are often replacing it. These jobs is because they are often very minimally skilled, and they're for people who either can't or won't or don't have the time for these types of skills being advanced, right? So if you're working in an egg factory and you're just moving eggs from place A to place B, and that's your job for 7.5 hours a day, you can turn your brain off. You're just a pair of arms at that point. And that's okay, because it's actually a really good thing for some people, because it actually can be a relaxing effect on some people. It can be really useful for people with certain health difficulties, or if you don't have much time, say you're a full-time like dad or a full-time mom, and you decide to get a part-time job on the side. You have no qualifications because you decided your family life's most important to you, so you get a minimum wage job. That's fine, and that's why you'd have it as a part-time job, right? And I think these jobs exist for a reason. I think they're very useful. I would never look down on these people. In fact, I think these are some of the most important cogs in our society. Without them, a CEO doesn't have any real skills. If you're on a boat, and you want to survive, and you can bring any person with you, you wouldn't choose a CEO because they would just tell you what to do, and it's useless. They're great in our society, very useful for controlling large numbers of people, but we need people underneath them, right? And these people who are on the ground, who often work minimum wage jobs, can do stuff that is very, very important for society, and they have these great skills. I absolutely do not look down on them in any which way, but it's an entry point for the elderly. It's an entry point for the very young, for people who can't work full-time jobs or can't work jobs that require a greater skill set. And I think it's a fantastic thing. However, if you decide to have 6 kids and you work full time and you have the latest iPhone, and so do all your kids, and so does your wife, and you're complaining that you're in debt because your minimum wage job doesn't pay you enough, I would entirely argue that that's a place you put yourself in. Admittedly, social peer pressure, etc., probably part of it as well. But that you either should have spent less, planned your life more carefully, or skilled up and go on the job that pays more. I don't think you can complain about how low paying that job is. It's not meant to sustain a children family. It's meant to sustain, one person.
Well, and
With minimal
that's
extras.
one of those discussions that a lot of people are going to have challenge with, because I hear a lot of comments about people saying, well, anybody should be able to maintain a household on minimum wage, and that we need to improve minimum wage so that that's the case. I agree that it would be nice for minimum wage to be high enough that people, and I will caveat it this way, a household in the sense of a single individual without
that's
a
what I was gonna say.
family maybe
Yes.
should be able to maintain a residence that they can rent and do minimal stuff, basic stuff in order to, survive, essentially. I say this because when I worked minimum wage years and years and years ago, I was in a position where I had to rely on having roommates and multiples of us living together in a single establishment to be able to be doing anything good. That we would have been really harsh to try to live on our own at that point. And that's been forever the case for my life. I mean, 20 plus years ago. And so it is hard for me to think that suddenly it should change to such a degree that someone who is working unskilled work, working minimum wage, should be able to do any more than that. And I've heard where people think they should be able to not just survive, but actually do well and raise a
slight
family
counterpoint here.
and stuff like that. It's hard for me to
A slight contradictory here, the point of what I previously said. I think that in society right now that's the case. I'm making a commentary on how I see it right now.
Okay.
Where I think it should be, I do think that we should have a UBI, a universal basic income, where everybody gets paid enough to survive. That should be the bare bones, right? Nobody should ever starve. Nobody should be without a house, at least the bare minimum. Like, I'm not saying anything fancy. Like, you should have at least a cupboard, right? A place where you can put in a bed, and a fridge, and a microwave, and a toilet. And that should be the bare minimum that you get, and some, I don't know, like bread and butter and milk. And that should be it, right? Everybody should get that by default. Every single person in the entire world, ideally, would get all of that. Then on top of that, that's how you pay for your extras. So if you want to get a minimum wage job, great. That's exactly how you get better quality food. That's exactly how you would get your new phone. That's how you get TV. That's how you get entertainment stuff, right? I think that's the way it should be. I think we should be at a stage where people are never in need. Our society is so rich. Our society is ridiculously rich that we can easily afford to give everybody the bare minimum. No problem. Every single person in the West can, no problem, afford that through the government and through tax, etc. And I don't think I'd make that big of a dent right now in the upper scales of people who are the top 1%, top 5%. I think a few dollars extra per $100 made would make a huge difference to millions of people's lives.
I think it would.
I think minimum wage should be on top of that. I think jobs should be on top of that.
So, and that's the problem. Like I said, there's a point where there's a challenge here. Expectations as well as minimum wage, I think they can both be changed or worked with each other, because I do believe if you want to maintain a family, have kids, stuff like that, you need to move up beyond minimum wage, or you're going to have to live in a situation where it's going to be more communal and you have more people sharing that effort. It's hard to say. And getting back to the chat a little bit, because there's some of the stuff that's before we even got to these points. Tromad was saying that I think a CEO is different from a sports star. CEOs, like a general, they have to keep the ideas flowing, operations running. Sports stars are just, I don't know, older high school sports stars, potentially. Again, entertainers, we pay for entertainment. I do think CEOs have a reason that they should make more money relative. I believe, and this is something, I don't know how you'd appropriate it, but that I believe there should be, if nothing else, a cap. Wayne's way of fixing the world, that the highest paid person in a company should never make more than a certain percentage more than the least paid person in the company. And that could be a pretty significant percentage, but it should be something set where if a company is making so much profit that they can pay a CEO $1 million a year as a profit, then their lowest paid employee should be making $20 an hour or something like that. And
absolutely.
That's how you would maybe adjust that. Well, if I as a CEO want to make more per year, then I have to raise the rates of everyone in my company. And That's the way I would see it, because that's a lot of how some elements of the government work. I don't know if that's too communist for some people, but I think that's one I could see. St. Luther comes in and says, I'm a teacher's aide and for special ed teachers, and I am part-time because the district does not want to pay out benefits for full-time. I have a huge issue with how many companies are allowed to do things where they split work where, and I've heard this from multiple people, they forcibly keep people on part-time because they don't want to pay the extra for benefits. Because in the U.S. you have to make, basically a full-time job, 36 hours, in many cases 40 at most, to get benefits, where a lot of companies will keep them just under that so that they don't have to pay the excess for the benefits that they really should be paying people, versus hiring enough people to do the job and paying them full-time and letting everyone move ahead in the world. Because, again, that takes away from profit. A lot of people talk about things being things. Kuro saying, finally looking at moving past the job he's at. So... Wow. Interesting. I'd be curious to hear more about that, Kuro, when we're off air. So, yes. Trobad says that's why he left Denver, because the company didn't pay enough to justify living in the area. I can understand that. Copy saying, I have no job loyalty and find no honor in the work I do. I mean, that's one of the challenges with almost all companies today, is that they've taken away that need, and it's twofold. This is one of those huge issues that I don't know if it's chicken or egg, but it's that companies don't offer the things that would keep a person loyal to a company for 20 years like they used to. 20, 30 years, earn a true pension of a retirement, and proudly say, I worked for this company for 30 years and I'm now doing other things, right? I've retired and did a good life. They don't offer benefits that allow that, so now people get 401ks, but they can move their 401k to any company, and so they can pick and choose and move whenever they want, which because of that, and because a lot of people coming into the workforce are so quick to change jobs because they run into one thing that becomes a little negative or something they don't want to have to deal with. Yep. I've seen that happen a lot with younger kids. Oh, this person yelled at me and therefore I quit. It's like, did you do something wrong? All these things, right? But now companies feel that they can't trust their workforce to stick around, and therefore they don't want to offer long-term benefits because they don't believe people are going to stick around long enough to use them anyways, and so they don't offer them. So I don't know if it's chicken or egg, right? Which came first? I
think it's probably both. They're probably both fed into each other. Again, I'm looking at it from, I think you're probably similar with IT and computing science perspective. And because we are specialists in those fields. And so I know that when I see lots of people talking about how people are leaving companies very quickly after 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, moving on to other things because they're offered higher pay or whatever, to me, I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. That's the field. That's computing science. I don't see that so much in other fields from people that I'm friends with from university. People who've gone off elsewhere. A lot of the case, they'll stay there at least 4 years or so. I've got a lot of friends who are still in the same job from when they left uni 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, and I'm in one of those odd.
Feel it's perfect for them.
And that's the thing. You may find a job that is great, and therefore it's worth every moment of you to just stick with that job. I've been fortunate that I've been with my company and been doing what I've been doing for almost 20 years now, specifically with one company. I'm kind of rare in that sense. But I see it out there all the time of people that just feel it's better for them to jump around than it is for them to stick with anything. And I understand the challenge there. And I mean, and we're getting a lot of chatter in the IRC about this week, or the Twitch chat, because this is a big issue. Everything where, Copy's saying that she's not loyal to her job because there's nothing, she's not getting paid enough to do other people's work. And it's, again, not providing those benefits to make you say. She's basically making minimum wage, but now started taking on managerial roles because someone else got fired or quit or something.
I've had similar. When I worked at my previous job, and again, I'm always worried to say the name of it, but they treat every employee like a freaking number. And even though I was on a good wage, and it was a very good wage for leaving uni, like I was so proud of myself, and so were my parents. They were so proud of me for working there. And after I went there for just a few months, I realized, wow, this is not getting any better. This is actually what life's like in this company. I can't do this anymore. It wasn't a case of, a manager shouted at me. It was a case of every single day, every single minute, I hated my life. And there's no point in ever working on a job that's like that.
No, it's one of those things. There's multiple points of it. I come up with three main ones of quality of life for any job, which is the amount you get paid, how much time off you get versus time you have to work, and whatever kind of benefits you get along with that. That are kind of the main things. Well, part of it being, it's how much you get paid, benefits with that, your time off kind of thing, and whether you enjoy the job or not.
That's the main one for me, yeah.
Well, because you can put up with a lot of things if you really love your job, you want the trifecta. You want all three if you can, right?
Oh,
If you
yeah,
get
yeah.
the proper amount of time off and you get paid enough for what you do and you happen to enjoy what you're doing and the people around you and such, that's wonderful. But there's a lot of cases where you don't. And I always tell people, anytime you're looking at jobs, if one of those things is better in a opportunity coming up, take it, go, do something new. But at the same time, if not, I had a lot of jobs where people wanted to offer me more money, but there was a lot more risk involved, where it was a contract that may go away after a short period of time, and then I would be forced to continue fighting for another contract. And for me at the time, it wasn't appropriate. I felt like I enjoyed the fact that I was in a job that was mostly stable and paid me well enough to be able to live my life, that I wasn't just chasing the money. There was a few other factors in there.
Money absolutely is not everything. I met people every and they were working the same job as me, more or less, except they were contractors. And they were like, man, I can't wait for this contract to end. I was like, dude, you're making more money in an hour than I do in 2 years. Like, well, how can you complain? And he's like, well, you hate it here. I also hate it here, but I make more money. I still hate it. Okay,
right?
Fair enough. Like it's hard to really think about that when you think, wow, in a week you've paid for a holiday, but by the end of the week they feel like they need a holiday.
No, it is really tough, actually, because money seems like the root of so many things. And there's the joke about, or the comment people try to say in a higher level of, money can't buy you happiness. But I will tell you, money does allow you a lot of freedom from some of the things that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people have a lot of struggles when it comes to financial things, and having more money would actually help them in a lot of ways. And so just to dismiss it as a simple comment that money doesn't provide happiness is not entirely accurate. It changes what things you have to focus on. Because some people, just having a little bit of money would make life significantly different. But there's so many other parts of happiness. For me, it's having enough time to actually enjoy whatever money you're making. Time off is a big deal. And heaven forbid, if the time you spend at work enjoying it so that you don't leave work hating things all the time is a big deal. Those are all aspects of it, and then having enough money to actually be able to afford to live and do the things you need to. So yeah, there's so many issues that come with it.
Dread going to every day.
No,
never have that kind of job. If you dread that, then you need to start looking elsewhere right now. If you dread the occasional day, that's fine. Like, a job should be varied, and you should have things that they're going to be out of your comfort zone. That's a healthy thing, in my opinion, to occasionally feel uncomfortable with your work. However, when it comes to okay, so you have a big presentation at work and it's the first one you've ever done, and it's in 3 months' time, and you're worried about that. So you have maybe a few days of worry, and then that one day where it didn't go very well, and so you didn't enjoy that. Doesn't mean you hate your job. Doesn't mean you should leave. But if you have, for example, again, like I was, a job that makes you want to come home and have a drink because you feel like you need it every single night, you really got to start considering what you're doing with your life, because that's not a healthy way to live, right?
Absolutely. Well, and gosh, I wish I could have kept up with the chat here as we're getting close to the end of the show and haven't talked about any of the news I was going to talk about. But this is a big deal for everybody because this is life. But, I mean, people talking about their current situations. I'm very happy for people like Hando, who is his own boss and has one of those rare occurrences where he even told me today he had the opportunity to walk away from a situation that was otherwise negative because it was a bad work situation, but because he's his own boss, it doesn't hurt him. He was able to say, nope, this is unprofessional, not what I do. I'm going to choose to do other things.
Nice. Well done, Hando. That's
right?
That's not only a good thing because of your job, that's also very mature of you.
Oh, it's just
well done. That's
so good. Yeah, there's other things where Kuro doesn't want to have to move where his company's moving to Georgia, which is interesting. There's opportunities there, but at the same time, yikes. There's so many things. Yeah, being your own boss is wonderful in a lot of ways. There's a lot of risk to it, and you have to kind of have your own niche or have something that you do better than others. Whatever that better is, that could be just you do it in a way that is more mature, more timely, that you have better skill, that you provide better pricing, whatever the case may be, to make it yourself. There's things you can do. Gosh, I mean, so many different stories you guys are telling about what's going on. I'm really happy you've been having this discussion back and forth because...
Feel free to email us these points as well, guys. If we can't cover it this week, we'll talk about it next week.
No, absolutely. We'll continue this discussion. We're happy to talk about the things that are important to all of you.
It's something that we actually don't really talk about much, but both Wayne and I are different parts of our careers, and they're in different careers entirely. Wayne's private sector, and I'm kind of public, I guess, mixed with private. and we've also had a whole range of jobs over our time. We've got a lot of experience. I've had a lot of students who've asked for my help with writing CVs and everything, and I've got in contact with employers and stuff. I think we both combined have quite a lot of experience when it comes to employment and the different variety of jobs. I've worked at several minimum wage jobs, as well as working student-based ones where I don't pay tax. I'm currently working 3 jobs, so I think it's quite a fun discussion to have because it's interesting. We can all relate to it. But I think we can also have our own unique perspective on this. So if you have anything you want to email in asking for advice, if you want to tell us a story, whatever, please do. showx@vtproductions.com. Very much welcome.
Absolutely. So because the show is about to end, I will say I am not going to be around right away after the show. I am going to be selfish, and I'm going to run and take advantage of what's currently going on in Pokemon, because there's a community day today, and they're doing, what are these things called? The Beldums, which are their kind of little robotic-looking, almost like a security camera-looking Pokemon, are apparently active right now, and there's potential to get shinies, and already La Campette told me she has got a shiny, and I'm jealous. And so I'm going to run around for probably the next hour trying to catch as many as I can before I come back to be responsible today. At which point I will probably actually jump on to see if people are gaming still at that point before I try to set up decorations and things around. Cool. So that's what I'm going to be running at least a little bit today. And so, like I said, I won't be necessarily here right after the show for gaming.
I'll be back in like 5 minutes.
So, but for everybody else, please jump into the Discord channel. And let's talk about what's been going on in gaming and continue the discussion and having all the good funs of gaming as we are VTW. You are the world, we are versus you. And let's help make more stories. So let's get ready to do that. It is time for us to get ready to sign off here. So like we said, if we want to continue the discussion, feel free to continue in the chat, jump in the Discord, talk to each other. Or if you want us to talk more about these situations, kind of life and what's going on, please email the show at showx@vtwproductions.com. We are here to entertain you. So let us know what you want us to talk about. All right, Ken, do us the favor and get us out of here.
Sure. You can find us everywhere. Email showx@vtproductions.com. Twitter, go to twitter.com/vtwshowx, twitter.com/.dead, or twitter.com/gohex. You can find us on patreon.com/showx. Feel free to give us the minimum of $1 per month. It's appreciated. It makes me do things like buy this new microphone that makes us not sound terrible. It's so appreciated, by the way. Thank you, everybody, for who supports us. We really appreciate it. That's the only reason we do this, and it's not coming out of our own pocket. We appreciate that. Join us in Discord. Uther's asking in the IRC, where do you find the Discord? Tromad linked it. It's discord.gg/w4. The link, you see the link there.
And I believe we have it linked off the front of the VTW page now, too,
so,
at the top left.
So.
I believe that's where
If not, it's definitely on our Facebook page, which you can find by going to facebook.com and search for ShowX. It's definitely at the top there somewhere. You can also find us, where else? Reddit.com/r/showx. We have our own subreddit there. Every single show is posted there automatically by my account, actually. So if you want to subscribe to that and discuss each show individually, maybe you listen in post, you can actually continue the discussion there. So feel free to continue talking about the show. This is like a replacement for our forums.
Yes.
We don't have forums anymore. We now have this subreddit. So check those out if you want to. It's reddit.com/r/showx. We're trying to encourage more activity there. So please do jump along. I keep a close eye on it and could definitely do with some encouragement on that side. So please do come say hi. I think that's everything. Thank you so much for the show, sir.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening and joining in today. It's been a lot of fun today. So thank you very much for being a part of it. We will catch you again next week. I keep figuring when I'm going to do things that might interfere, but I think I'm good again. I'm doing, as we prepare for Halloween and all that, and other things, because I won't be doing stuff after the show next week, but I will be here for the show. So, all right, with that, everybody, you've been listening to ShowX on VTWProductions.com, and we will catch you again next week. Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.